so you too just got back from vacation.
I did. We were out in Los Angeles area.
Oh.
Yeah. So the Ashley, you have the lovely Leslie, I have the lovely Ashley.
Yeah.
We went out on vacation. Netflix was doing for 2 weeks.
Can I have lovely Leslie and you can have awesome Ashley?
Oh yeah, that's better.
Because
the
I like
alliteration is beautiful.
Yeah,
huh?
awesome Ashley.
Okay, awesome Ashley and I. She planned this trip, and we went out during Netflix as a joke. They had 2 weeks where they were sponsoring all the major comedians of today all throughout Los Angeles. Every night there was something different going on.
Everybody's got to have a festival, and so why not comedy?
And we saw lots of different people. Jerry Seinfeld, Jim Gaffigan.
Bert Kreischer was there, Tom Segura. They ran a 5K.
Yeah.
I mean, because I love comedy. That's my jam. And
it was super fun.
I've been following it on Instagram, so I didn't know that's why you were going out to it.
And years ago, I just started listening to stand-up all the time. That's one of my favorite things to do. It boosts my mood. It's lots of fun. And so we were out there. We saw some people at the Hollywood Bowl, at the Greek Theater. And in between shows, we went up to Malibu for a little beach day.
Oh, you went to the Boo?
Yeah. And went out to a place called Dume Point.
Ooh.
And it's a place, if you like to watch whales, this time of year we saw some whales out there. If you like the sea lions, they had hundreds of sea lions up there. And we hiked up to the top. And finally, after 5 years of dating, I asked the awesome Ashley to marry me.
Get out.
And she said yes.
You got down?
So we're engaged.
Did you get down on one knee? Walk me through it, man. I want to fangirl on this.
So out at the edge of the cliff, and it was great because there weren't a lot of people around. You had the sea lions, and you had the pelicans, and we had this hawk flying overhead, and the ocean waves crashing there. And it was a beautiful day in Malibu, and I had written her a little poem, and then I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me, and she thought something might be up, but she didn't think I was going to ask her that day, so it was fun to surprise her with that, and she said yes, and we're engaged.
So what was it like?
It seems a little weird as an old guy to be getting married again.
I'm in awe. I think that is
but
amazing.
I'm excited. I'm more excited for this than almost anything in forever.
Not to like, this is full circle for us, because when we were going to start this podcast, me and you were both going through divorces.
Yes.
I was battling alcoholism.
Well, we were going to do a different podcast about being divorced dads because we'd both just gotten divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we
And then
were.
you didn't show up one day.
Well, because I got a DUI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were in jail.
Yeah, and ended up in rehab.
Yeah.
And so, I remember us both sitting here using these same mics.
Yeah.
Talking about how our lives have changed because, we're now single dads. We're going to have to be mom and dad when the kids at our house. How are we going to navigate that? And that's what we wanted to do the podcast on is, why haven't you guys walked through this with us? Because we were at that age where people start to get divorced.
Yeah. We were in our 40s.
Yeah. And so now to see you come full circle, and it's been wonderful to watch you and Ashley grow as a couple. And you guys are an amazing pair. I mean,
well, I'm fortunate beyond belief. She's such a great person. She's calm. She's smart. I always say she's the best problem solver I've ever met. She's easygoing. Just somebody you can relax with or go on adventures with, and I'm just grateful that she wants to be with me. I don't understand that, but I'll take it. And I'm excited to be with her. And so big changes coming. We're planning a wedding. I'll let you know when we have a date.
Can I DJ it?
I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it. And there'll be moves involved and house selling and buying and all that stuff, but I'll keep you posted.
Couple questions for you.
Yeah.
What was it like smuggling the ring there?
I stuck it down in the toe of my shoe that was in my suitcase.
Okay.
So she couldn't see that I had anything.
But then you had to have it in your pocket going up the hike.
Oh, so what I did was I said, well, we'll bring some snacks on the hike. And I had a little backpack, so I put it down in the bottom of the backpack. So she didn't, but I had to wait till she was in, getting ready in the other room, and then I snuck it in.
Well, we haven't been with each other for the past 3 weeks because you've been on vacation. I've been on vacation. So I actually did one podcast by myself.
Right.
And on that one, I talked about the lovely Leslie and what she means to me. And I talked about her being a ride or die. And every guy in his life wants a ride or die.
Oh, she certainly is.
She's your ride or die.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because when you find that ride or die.
She's so great and loyal and supportive. I just a best friend. For sure.
That's a ride or die, bro.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We are happy for you.
Thanks.
While you were getting engaged in the boo,
Yeah.
I was trying to explain in English to people who speak Spanish why I do not want to drink. I was me and the lovely Leslie and her 2 kids, Tate and Addie, and then my 3 kids, Presley, Frankie, and Bodie.
That is a crew.
7 of us.
Yeah.
Grabbed our passports, hopped on a plane,
Yep.
and headed to the Dominican Republic,
Wow.
Punta Cana.
Yeah.
And this was kind of a family celebration. We used the money that we won from the TV show.
Oh, yeah?
To pay for everybody.
All right.
And we took everybody down there. And this was like the first family vacation with all of us.
Everybody.
7 of us.
Wow.
And so when you're traveling with...
How many were in the Brady Bunch?
I think 8.
Okay. You got one more coming?
Yeah, no. Although I would have another kid.
Would you?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I think they're the best.
Yeah, they're
You know
good.
what I mean?
Well,
But-
you've got great kids.
Yeah, but Leslie, she's like,
She's out.
No.
Okay.
So,
Fair
which
enough.
makes it really tough for me.
Yeah, right.
You know, haven't figured that one out yet. But
I've
so
got some spares if
we
you want
went
one.
down to an all-inclusive resort.
Yeah.
And have you ever been to an all-inclusive resort?
I have.
What is the number one selling point of an all-inclusive resort?
They usually sell the alcohol, like the alcohol is included.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing they advertise. Food's probably number 2.
But it's alcohol.
Yeah,
All you
right.
can drink.
Yeah, yeah.
Sun up to sundown. There was a bar open.
Which is a great way to ruin your vacation, but sure. Yeah, I mean, it's there.
I was thinking about that because I saw some vacations ruined. I mean, I've got pictures of guys passed out at the pool.
Yeah, they're not coherent the whole time.
I was going to the gym in the morning. And I saw people hobbling back to the room doing the walk of shame. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I saw pissed off wives. I saw angry husbands. I
Sure.
mean, really, and angry parents because
But that is what they advertise.
the drinking age is 18.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so we go down there, and I mean, everywhere, as soon as you, like, in the package, it's told me, it goes, you know, every room has a complimentary bottle of champagne and rum. We've stocked your mini bar. We'll stock it daily. The place has 6 different bars throughout the resort.
Wow.
They have waiters and waitresses walking through the
Yeah,
resort.
they'll come up to your beach
There
table.
was a swim up
yeah.
bar.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
you know what I mean? But I mean, that was the number one selling point. I mean, it was beautiful. The resort was beautiful. The pool was luxurious. The beach was right outside, and it was pristine. It was absolutely beautiful. But I had to keep explaining to these people, and they were like, "Senor," and I was like, "No, I can't drink." "No, it's free." And I was like, I'm not drinking because it's not free. I'm drinking because I'm an alcoholic, and I can't.
How do you say alcoholic in Spanish?
I never figured it out.
Okay.
But every time, so my kids, like Frankie, she wanted to have multiple coladas a day, pina coladas. She said, you know, I'm going coladas today, Dad.
Well, like real ones?
No,
Okay. Like the virgin ones.
Virgin coladas. Okay. And so then my son says, I'm going to go for daiquiris. I'm going daiquiris, virgin daiquiris, you know.
Okay.
And so they were going back and forth with coladas. And every time we had to order a pina colada or a daiquiri, it was virgin, please, virgin, please. So I think they think we're just a bunch of virgins because nobody was really drinking.
Yeah.
Leslie's oldest son had a couple drinks. Leslie maybe had a couple. But other than that, nobody drank.
Your group.
And
they probably thought boring.
Yeah. You know what I mean? They're like,
group.
oh, we're scoring on these guys.
Yeah.
But it was.
Was your oldest daughter there?
Yep, she was 18.
So that's the question I want to ask. Just because I hear different things from different parents all the time. You're in a country where the drinking age legally is 18. Do you let your kids drink at 18, or do you hold them to the 21 standard?
We had this conversation.
Yeah.
I said, I can't stop you, but I won't be the one to tell your mom. You will. So you can do whatever you want.
I love it. That's great. I'm just the threat there is
but I says you will. I'm
sly.
I'm not hiding a secret for you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you think you're old enough to drink and you want to drink, then you're going to want to have a conversation with your mom because I will not.
And
she didn't drink.
Oh, okay.
She didn't drink. I don't think she wants to. I think she wanted to test it to see what I would say. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think my kids are really savvy of what alcoholism did to me and what it cost me.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's any interest in it.
Yeah.
You know, will they ever drink? Yeah, probably. I think they'll probably experiment with it. I hope not. I've sat down and had conversations with them and said, hey, you know, I've talked to Dr. Matt and here's the science and here's what's going on. And if you decide, I would wait until you're well into your mid-20s.
Yeah.
You know, get through college and get through high school and, you know, and give yourself a chance. I said, but you got to understand that my blood and genes are running through you guys. Yeah. So the chances are pretty good.
And, you know, while you were gone in the Dominican Republic, we sat down with my 4 kids, 3 of whom are over 21 now, and we had a conversation about a family member who's struggling with alcohol right now, and other family members, and we talked about the genetics of it. And we talked about, like, this is something to be serious about. You think it can't get you, but it can. And it was good to sit down with the kids and have that conversation again. We've had it before, but with some recent things that have come up in the family, it was good to sit down and talk to them about it. So I'm glad you talked to your kids about it too.
And that's what was so great about this vacation is that I had the chance to authentically be there with my kids and make sure that they were having a good time and that they were a priority, because this trip was about them. In my disease, everything was all about me. I was selfish. I wanted to have a good time. And my way to have a good time was bringing you along with it. So whether you wanted to party or not, I took you along.
Yep.
And I was drunk in the morning. I was drunk in the afternoon. I was drunk in the evening. I was the loudest one at dinner, which was embarrassing for my kids. Sometimes it was funny. Most of the times it wasn't.
Yeah.
But we went out and we dressed up and we went to dinner and we went to the shows and we went dune buggying, we went snorkeling. And I have never seen my kids try to jump on a grenade for me so many times, because every time they would bring me a drink.
Yeah.
They were all willing to take the drink first.
Really?
Just to see if there's alcohol, because they would rather them than me.
Than you. Wow. That's
you know what I mean? And I was like, no, guys. Even my son, who's 12, was like, I'll try, Dad. I was like, no, son, you're okay.
Let's not start you off.
You're okay.
At 12.
But Leslie, it was like back in the medieval times, there was a...
Yeah, the king had a taste tester, right?
You know what I mean?
Make sure it wasn't poison.
Well, it wasn't poison. And I had one of those everywhere I went.
Yeah.
We went on
cute.
We went on this snorkeling trip, and we rented this catamaran, and we went out and snorkeling, and he goes, before we go, El Capitan, Senor, you must take a shot. And I was like, I can't. Yeah. And he's like, but you have to. It's tradition. I go, I can't. It's just not going to make sense,
Right.
And so my stepson, Tate, he goes, I'll take it for you.
Yeah.
And so he took it, and he's like, whew. He goes, yeah, that was not good.
Yeah.
And then the guy kept pushing me, and then finally one of the guys goes like, no, he's, because I had to sit down and go, listen, I'm an alcoholic. If I drink now, this is not going to end well.
Well, it's interesting because alcohol is so much part of culture and activities, and I bet you that is very unusual for him to have somebody who won't even take a shot.
Well, in some cultures, it's a sign of disrespect.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I mean, I'll you got Fanta? I'll take a shot of Fanta. I'll take a shot.
I'm not sure which is worse, but yeah.
I'll take a shot of something. It just can't be alcohol because I'm not trying to offend. It's just, and there was a little bit of a language barrier for me going, hey,
Right. Well, good for you, though. And I think that's awesome that you got to spend that time with your kids. Sometimes people ask me, like, do you have any regrets? And I think the only regret is I worked a lot when my kids were younger, and so I'm trying my best now to work less and spend more time with them. And it's precious to be able to have that time where it's unstructured, you have no responsibilities, you can really talk to the kids and spend time with them and do activities. And important conversations can organically arise during those times when you're just face to face and sitting on the beach or, going for a walk. That's really special.
My son gave me the most Casey answer he's ever given me in my life.
Yeah?
We're walking to the gym one morning, and I'm just talking to him. I go, hey, bud. He goes, hey, Dad. He goes, thanks for taking me on this. I really love you. And I go, I love you too. I just wanted to be able to have some experiences and some memories with you. I go, can I ask you a question? He goes, yeah, Dad, what? And I go, how you doing? He goes, what do you mean? I go, how you doing in life? He goes, I'm doing.
I'm doing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a very Casey response.
I was like, well, what does that mean? He goes, I'm doing it, Dad. And I go, but are you happy? And he was like, yeah. He goes, I got good friends. I got great parents. I'm okay, Dad. And, it was just one of those moments for me to have authentically with him to do a little check-in. Going, hey, look, we're not trying to make people laugh. When we're not, you're not in trouble for school. We're not talking about anything. I just want to know, how are you doing as a person? And he's like, that's great. I'm doing. And I tried to make time for each of my kids, even the stepkids, while we were there, to have these conversations. Going, hey, how's life going?
That's great. 12 is a tough age. 12, 13, 14.
And he got braces.
And braces.
Yeah, so he's got his finger in his mouth the whole time getting pineapple chunks out of there. I was like, hey, bud, we got to learn about toothpicks.
I'm kind of glad we couldn't afford braces when I was a kid.
Well, happy for you and Ashley. I think that's amazing. And I made some memories with my kids and my girlfriend, and it was an amazing time. We've got an amazing show for you today. We've got 2 guests returning. Yeah, they were both.
We've been doing this long enough. People are coming back.
But this one's unique because they both were on the podcast at different times.
And they didn't know each other at that time.
But because of the podcast, it forced one of these people to reach out to the other. Mm-hmm. They formed a friendship. They now are best friends.
I know.
Where they finish each other's
sandwiches.
And actually, it encouraged one of our guests to write another book. So I can finally use their names.
And I was going to say, I don't even think you and I, how many books, I've read a few, but we haven't written any.
No.
We should write one. Actually, Ashley, on our trip, was talking about how you and I should, that's something for us to talk about. Okay. We should write a book together. I have an idea.
Okay. Our guests today are Portia Louder and Manny Lopez. Combined between them, they've got over 28 years of incarceration. Incarceration. Am I lying?
Facts,
huh?
Facts.
You thought I was going with sobriety. Yeah, no. 28
I think my response still applies.
28 years of incarceration. Wow. Manny, you've done close to what?
20 years.
And
in and out.
Well, you're giving me a couple of years. I did 5, but I'll take the 28 because it felt like 8. So
okay. And so it's Portia Louder, and you were on the podcast how long ago?
It's been about 2 years.
And for people who don't know, you spent 5 years in prison, and we're going to get back to that in just a second. We want to go over to this gentleman right here. He's glowing in pink. We've already talked about our hair routine.
Yeah, you guys have quite the hair routine. I feel like sort of left out.
We're throwing some rocket oil in there. What else are you throwing in there, Manny?
Castor oil. I don't know. This is shea.
Are you using some good shampoo?
Cool, all natural stuff.
Okay.
Organic.
Yeah, I love it. And Manny, for those who don't remember you, how long has it been since you've been on the podcast?
It's been over a year. Very close to a year and a half.
And you said you've been in and out of jail for...
Prison. Some jail, mostly prison.
Now, for those who don't know, prison's a lot worse than jail.
Yes. That's the extended stay of incarceration.
Okay. And so, for those who don't know, what is the difference between jail and prison?
Jail is more like holding you until they decide to give you a sentence. And then you get that sentence, and then they usually ship you out to the prison where you'll do the years. Prison, there's more opportunity, I like to say, because you can get your high school diploma, do some college, do some programming, where jail's pretty limited. I mean, it's a revolving door, people in and out. Well, so is prison, but...
Jails tends to be local and fairly temporary, right? Whereas prison could be anywhere, depending on where they want to send you, and it's for whatever your sentence is.
Right. You're not going to see somebody with a life sentence in the jail.
How long was your longest stay at prison?
6 years.
And what was that for?
For aggravated assault. So when I was 16 years old, I was certified as an adult, sent to prison at 17, and I didn't get out till I was 23.
And then once you got out at 23, you were running and gunning
in and out of toxic relationships, in my addictive lifestyle, just a whole mess of self-destruction, self-hate.
We'll put your podcast back up in the link so people can go back and listen to it. But let's just fast forward to, what was your rock bottom like?
My rock bottom was me in a stolen vehicle, driving on the wrong side of the road because I was trying to pull into a liquor store. That was the only thing I had access to at the time because I couldn't get any meth, heroin, or bath salts, and so I was going to settle for alcohol. And I crashed into a vehicle at the intersection. Somebody pulled over to help, and I jumped out of the stolen vehicle, brushed them aside, jumped in their vehicle, and tried to steal their vehicle. Now, luckily for everybody involved, they had taken the keys out of the ignition, and I passed out in their vehicle.
And woke up in?
The hospital. Then I passed out again and woke up in the backseat of my parole officer's vehicle, being driven back to prison for the 11th time. And that is where I had my divine intervention, my aha moment, where I could really understand, like, there was nobody I could blame anymore. I couldn't blame my mom, who had let me go to foster care. I couldn't blame my dad, who was never there. I couldn't blame any of the toxic relationships that I was in. There was nobody that I could blame. I had to take responsibility, and I think that's when I started really recognizing that I have been the cause of every problem in my life.
Now, once you get sober, and you got sober, it was through the prison system, wasn't it?
Right.
Was it a 12-step program?
It wasn't a 12-step program. However, there were 12-step meetings that we could go to, but it was more behavior modification.
And for those who don't know, that focuses primarily on your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But
Life skills.
But what was the light switch for you?
The light switch for me was my daughter was 3 years old at the time, and I was the dad that was on drugs and would show up with gifts, and then would feel so guilty because I wasn't being a parent that I would stay for probably no longer than an hour because of the guilt, shame, and embarrassment. And that would cause me to take off again and then go back into that relapse cycle and stay stuck in that. But she was 3 years old at the time, and calling her, hearing her say, "Daddy, where are you?" It killed me. And I really recognized that I was doing a disservice to her, like a major disservice to her, because I set the example for the type of man that she's going to allow into her life. And if I'm in and out of prison, in the streets, addicted to substances and destructive behavior, then the likelihood of her ending up with somebody just like that is pretty high.
That's amazing. That's deep.
And so I just started building. And so keep in mind, like, I'm facing a whole slew of charges because of this situation. And the pattern that I had been in before was to kind of like just go with the flow. But this was like, no more going with the flow. It's time to be proactive and start making stuff happen. And so, I mean, I fought these charges for 17 months. And in that 17 months, I just started developing myself and developing myself and developing myself. Anything that I could get my hands on, reading material that would help with that, I did. And I started reading things from like a real authentic hunger point of view and really internalizing things and then practicing the things that I was reading and then also trying to teach it to other people. And it helped me really retain
Were these
the information.
like self-help type books?
Self-help books, programming, assignments,
Like
programming
computer
curriculum.
science stuff?
Yeah, that, and also written.
What I like he said he read them out of a hunger, like a thirst for knowledge. And I was just thinking, Dr. Matt, how important would that be in your practice if you had people come in here because they had the hunger and they had the thirst and they wanted a different way, instead of having just somebody tell them how to fix it?
It makes all the difference. No, it makes all the difference. In fact, I met with somebody this morning. It was a first-time visit. I wouldn't say he had a rock bottom. He wasn't there necessarily for substance problems. But he literally this morning, what he said is, I am just so sick and tired of this anxiety that cripples me. I'm ready to do anything. And I sent him home with cognitive behavioral exercises to practice. And I have no doubt, based on how authentic he was in my office this morning, that next week when we visit again, we're going to have an awesome visit. And
So-
that desire,
Very cool.
that makes all the difference in the world.
So you fought the charges, and what was the final outcome of it?
So I fought the charges, and then it came time to present myself to the judge. I would end up pleading to 1 to 15 years, a second-degree felony, and 0 to 5 years, a third-degrry felony. And it started out as first-degree felony, 5 years to life. So being able to get that deal, it was a pretty sweet deal for me. But I still knew, like, I'd been in and out of prison for 20 years. So I take these charges to the Board of Pardons. If the judge says, okay, I'm going to forward you to prison, and then I present myself with this in front of the Board of Pardons, they're going to lay me down. I'm going to do 5 to 10 easily. So I presented myself to the judge as a changed man. And I asked for a chance. I asked for an opportunity, which I had done so many other times, the Board of Pardons, other judges, but it wasn't authentic. This one, this was me at probably my most vulnerable point, saying, this is what I've done. I've programmed and programmed and programmed. And if what it is that you want from me is time, then that's all you can get, because I have reached max benefit with what's offered here at the prison. And he looked at me really intensely, and he didn't say anything for probably 20, 25 seconds.
Felt like an hour.
Right. And he said, Mr. Lopez, you're right. All I can give you is time. But I don't think time has served you well. Time is all you've done all your life. So I'm going to give you this opportunity. And I'm going to send you to a residential treatment program. And if you do not take it as seriously as you took it here, and you come back to me for anything, I'm going to give you every day of your sentence. And like that, life changed. I'm looking at somebody that I did not expect to have any faith in me at all. And he gave me that chance. And the prosecutor even jumped in and kind of tried to say, "This is a bad idea. Don't give this guy a chance. He's not capable of changing."
Shut up.
And he kind of shut her down, and then he said, "I'm going to give you this opportunity."
Wow.
So, I mean, 2 weeks after that, I went to the Board of Pardons, and I was released a week or two after that. And I went to Odyssey House of Utah. Shout out to Odyssey House.
Mm-hmm.
All the lives that they're helping change over there.
Our friend Randall Carlisle.
Yeah.
He's a homie.
Yeah, he is.
He's good, huh?
Yeah. I love Randall. And, cool thing about that is, so I've been an Odyssey graduate for 2 years now, and this Monday they have their gala, which is where they put on their big graduations, and they asked me to be the keynote speaker.
How cool is that?
It's super cool. So I knew that I would be a keynote speaker for Odyssey, without a doubt. I'm like, just keep doing what you're doing. You were going to be there. But I didn't expect to even be considered for this for another 3 years, till I was probably 5 years out of there. And so I think that I got asked to do this really speaks to a lot of the things that I've been doing. And I think that's pretty cool. So I got to take some time and sit in that.
Well, speaking of pretty cool, because of this podcast and your appearance on it, you were able to meet somebody special.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And she's sitting right across from you. That is Portia Louder. And so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to hear a little bit from Portia. And then we're going to find out what you two wonderful human beings are doing together and how you're changing the world. Stick around. Project Recovery will be right back. Hey, welcome back to Project Recovery. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Woolley. He's a clinical psychologist. Ooh, that
was
wrong.
close. Yeah, you got it, though.
I did. Hey, our guests today are Manny Lopez and Portia Louder. Now, we just heard from Manny.
Right.
And kind of the things he's been doing since hitting rock bottom and fighting his way out. Our guest right now is Portia, who was probably one of our most popular podcasts we've ever done.
True.
Because you look like a typical Mormon mom.
Me?
Yeah. But you spent 5 years in prison.
I did.
And I think that's what was so relatable about your story is so many times people think, this couldn't happen to me. This couldn't happen to my family because people have this perceived notion of what an addict looks like.
A stereotype.
A stereotype.
Yeah.
And you bucked the mold.
Well, that's good, right?
Yeah. I mean, did you feel like you bucked the mold?
I felt like, I think before I went to prison, I just thought, I can't go to prison. I'm a Mormon mom, you know?
Right.
Once I got to prison and realized that I was with my people, that's where I belonged. And my whole view shifted, and I would never want to go back to the view that I had before I went to prison. So.
Now, if I remember correctly, you said something to yourself the first week in prison that kind of helped you go throughout the whole time. What was that?
That I wanted to become an amazing person, or no? Was it something else?
No, I think that was it.
Yeah. Well, I had an experience, and it was actually with a therapist before I went to prison because I was absolutely determined not to go. I was like, I'm not going. And he goes, okay, Portia, it would be difficult for you if you went to prison for 7 years. But what would be more difficult for you would be to stay out here in your addiction. Because in your addiction, you couldn't be a good mother and you couldn't be connected to the people you love. He goes, but if you go to prison, you could still become an amazing person in prison. That's not something you could do out here in your addiction. So I wasn't hearing that before I went to prison. But when I got to prison, I was like, I have options. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have an amazing ending. I'm going to do what I can to make this right. And it starts with me. And it was so painful. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but it changed everything. So.
Now, I imagine when you're standing in front of the judge and he's getting ready to sentence you.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can't go.
Right.
I'm not going to go. and they look at you and go, yeah, that's not really how this works.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I can imagine I'd feel the same way. Most people would be like, no,
I'm not going.
Well, it has to be an unreal experience. Like going to prison, like that's not something you grow up thinking is an option.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, and that's what I think is so interesting about Manny is that he grew up in the system, right? So for someone that's never been, I'm 43 years old, but I will tell you that everyone that I've ever met that's gone to the courtroom, that's where all the denial slips away, because it really does have, it's such a sterile place. It's impossible to continue to deny your situation. So up until that point, I had been very belligerent and probably got exactly what I deserved based on how I behaved. I think I told the FBI they should take a lie detector test. Like, it went over so well, you know?
Yeah, they appreciate that feedback, I bet.
Yeah,
let me bring in Manny real quick on this. Manny, do you remember the first time you were sentenced for prison?
Yeah, absolutely.
And did you think, I'm not going to go, they can't make me, or did you go, well, this is just how it goes?
This is how it goes. I went with it. I mean,
you weren't fighting it. I mean,
no. And I almost knew that that's where I was headed before it even happened. Like 13, 14, 15 years old, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the norm for me. But that was the norm for the environment that I grew up in.
That's crazy.
And I think that was the biggest surprise to me, that here I had lived my whole life not even considering prison an option, not knowing what people's lives are like that are so different than mine. And then I go into this courtroom and everything changes in a moment. And I realize that I'm going to get the maximum sentence. I look back at my husband and my kids and I'm like, my life will never be the same. You know, it's just a shock, a leveling experience. And then I get to prison and I'm thinking, I was done dirty. It's just so unfair what happened to me. And I'm looking around at people whose lives are so much more difficult than mine. But there's something they have that I don't have. And it's what Manny has, which is, I'm a drug dealer. Drug dealers go to prison. That's what happens. And I'm like, not me. I'm not me. I don't go to prison, you know? So it took me longer to get to that place of accountability where I took ownership, which is where the power lies.
It really is. It is owning that. Because you think about it, you know, in your prime time of running and gunning.
Right.
You were doing similar stuff to Manny.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
No different. It was still on the other side of the law.
But I'm driving a black Suburban and I'm in a Mormon mother and I look different. So when they pull me over, they don't take me to jail. But when they pull him over, they take him to jail. And that was the surprise to me. I get into prison and people are like, you had pretrial release? Like, what's that? You know, they have no idea. I'm like, oh, yes. I had 7 years on pretrial release and I fought. I had this attorney and they're like, you paid for an attorney? I mean, nobody had. Basically, I started to realize that we live in a country where you can be white and guilty versus innocent and maybe poor and a different nationality, and you're going to be treated better white and guilty, which is pretty sad.
I mean, it is, and it's a system that is flawed and cruel, and just I mean, that's what I love about your guys' friendship is because, you know, you guys complement each other so well and you're both focusing and fighting for good.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it really is. And I think when I saw Manny on your podcast, first I saw a short and then I went back and listened to the whole thing and I was just like, whoa, because of my experience, understanding what it takes to come from foster care, to come from being incarcerated in detention centers and being raised that way, right? Coming from nothing and becoming who he is, I was like, that's the man I want to coach my daughter and my family. I want to know what he has because that takes so much more grit and strength and understanding of these principles that I think are life-changing than I had ever seen.
And we're going to find out what you guys are doing together in just a second. But just to let everybody know, we'll repost your podcast as well so people can go back and listen to that. But your rock bottom was you getting sent to prison for 5 years.
Yeah.
And while in there, you said, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to come out of here a better person.
Correct.
And not a lot of people go into prison with that mindset. a lot of times I'm going to endure this, I'm going to get through this, and then we'll see what's out on the other side. But you use this as a time to reflect, change, and make yourself better.
At what point would you say that mindset shifted?
I mean, the first 2 years, I made a choice early on that I seriously, the therapist that I talked to, for some reason, I could see that was the only thing that was within my control, right? And so I made that decision. I didn't know where it would lead me. It took me 2 years to take full ownership that I was there 100% because of me. I did this to myself, and really reach out to my children and community and people I hurt and say, tell me how I hurt you. This was me. There's so much power in that. That was when things really opened up for me, and I was able to serve and connect with these women in such a beautiful way and started to understand the opportunity that I had. Honestly, by the end of my sentence, I felt so much joy because I had really restored my integrity. My life had changed, and who in this world goes 5 years without a cell phone? I mean, when I got back and told the guy at the phone store, I said, I haven't had a phone for 5 years. He's looking at me like, you could be in Africa and have a phone. Like, where were you,
I was in Dominican Republic and everybody had phones.
Everyone has a phone.
Right.
But that space for me, that sobriety time, because I got sober the day I walked into prison. So, 9 years now. But that was, my whole life changed. I needed that time. And I shared on the podcast before, my upbringing, I'm the oldest of 7 kids. I was raised in a really my mom was a hippie. There were no rules, no boundaries. So for me, having that structure and those boundaries was safe. And I started to understand, there were a lot of things that were outside my control, but there were a lot of things that were within my control. And becoming an amazing person was one of them. Mm-hmm. By the way I responded to others, by taking ownership, the things that I read. And I got very disciplined about it. I was up at 4 and 5 in the morning reading and studying and walking. And then I started writing curriculum to teach other people. And I was blogging. And so it was I'm not leaving with nothing.
That's the crazy thing about addicts, and I used to pride myself in it as well. I love chaos. You know what I mean? I love just going with the flow and seeing what happens. That's where I do my best work. Turns out in recovery, I love organization. I love a schedule.
Right?
I love a routine. I never thought I'd be a big fan of a routine, but I love a routine. You know what I mean? It keeps me balanced, it keeps me focused, and it keeps me on point, and that is what I need as an addict.
So you could go to prison.
I don't want to. Let me ask you this, because after 5 years, and you made some amazing relationships in prison, and so much that you still go back and talk to a lot of prisons.
Some of my best friends.
You would tell me that you are one of the accredited speakers that are allowed in prison.
They let me in all the time.
Were you sad when you left?
It was like this, so here's the thing that's kind of cool. When I walked in, nobody said, welcome. It wasn't this, hey, we're glad you're here, It's not like that.
She's here.
We've been waiting. Yeah, it wasn't like that. But when I left, all the women on that compound came running out. We love you, Miss Sauter. We love you, Portia. So my heart was so full. And then my husband's waiting outside with flowers. So it's and I was really excited just to hold his hand. I haven't been with him for 5 years, right? This man that we've been through so much together, just holding his hand just lit me up. It was so exciting. Oh. But yet I loved these women. And when I wrote the book and sent it in, they're like, this is our story. I have stayed connected to the people I love through writing. Now I get stuff in prisons through content, on tablets. And it's a piece of my heart is still there.
So what have you been doing since your release from prison?
Oh, a lot. Obviously, connecting with kids and grandkids. I think I shared that I had placed a son for adoption, and we've built a beautiful relationship. In fact, he's videoed some of Manny and I's stuff together. So when I saw Manny on this podcast, I speak in detention centers, and I do a lot for the LDS Church. I speak at the MTC at least twice a month, and then they just have me at Women's Conference. Mm-hmm. And I was just on Come Follow Up, the BYU channel. So they just reach out. Nothing that I've really tried to do. It's just people see me on your podcast, and then they reach out.
I love it.
So, but what happened when I saw Manny, I said, I would like you to come to this detention center. Well, it turns out that it was the detention center that he grew up in.
Wow.
Literally, he was in every unit in that detention center. So we walk in there together, and he's like, I've never walked through these front doors. And when he stood up in the front of that room, and those boys, there were a couple girls in there, but I had all the LDS volunteers were in the chapel too, and they're like, I've never seen anybody connect to kids the way that guy just did. Like there was something so authentic and beautiful. And I mean, I'm pretty good at, I connecting and communicating. I speak all the time, but it was like next level when I watched him do that. And then all the other missionaries came up after and they said, how do we get him back? Like, how do we get him to connect with these kids? I said, you are gifted, my friend, and I want you to coach my daughter. He's like, okay, we can talk. And that's how our friendship from here to that. And now a lot of what I do is with Manny,
So Manny, when she calls you out of the blue, walk me through that.
So after treatment for me, life got busy. I mean, I was doing construction cleanup originally, but knew I wanted to work in recovery. And so I became a peer support specialist and then started shopping myself around to different programs. Couldn't work for Odyssey because I was still on parole. And I got an interview at Papillon Integrated Recovery Center. Shout out to Papillon on all they do. And after 3 interviews, they gave me a job as a house manager. And so I am like 9 to 5 plus some more hours, just working. And she calls me and asks if I'll go with her to speak at the detention center. And I'm like, sure, but when am I going to have time for that? Because I'm so focused on this over here. But I knew that like that's something that I should do, though that's my people. And when she talks about like I went in there and we connected, it's because it's a reflection of me and I'm a reflection of them, and we see each other's pain. We know what that looks like. We know what that feels like, and so I mean, super blessed from that experience, and then hearing people say like the way that you connected with these kids, we've never seen it. It really gave me a push. Like you need to do this more. Mm-hmm. It's cool to have this busy work schedule, but you need to fit this in because it's service work and it's also self-care. And the combination of those two was really fulfilling.
Here's a question for both of you, and feel free to answer it, whoever's got the answer first. How crazy is it to think the thing that brought you so much pain is now giving you so much joy?
It's, I ask clients sometimes, I say, if you could know your future, would you want to know? And a lot of times I think they'll say yes, but most of the time they say no. And I think if you would have told me, oh, you're going to go to prison, but it's going to work out, I would have said, hell no, I'm not going. And it happened. I'm not going to prison, and I don't care if it's going to work out. I'm not going, right? I would never undo the life that I've had. It was exactly what I was born to do. It's like such a part of who I am. And all that pain, and you get it. Mm-hmm. Everything I went through is the credibility. It's what I built my life on now. It's like I had to have that to have what I have now, and I wouldn't ever give it back. And so it's crazy to me and that's the beauty of every person who's stuck in the struggle, is that you get it right. You have an amazing ending. You become that person that you were born to be, and all of that becomes your credibility. Yep. It really does.
Well, Manny, answer the question.
So I think when you learn the skill of taking yourself out of a situation and looking at it from a perspective where you can gain lessons and see how that situation can benefit you, life changes for you. And I think that's what I was able to do. And obviously that's what Portia does every day, is she takes what she went through and uses it as fuel, motivation, drive, inspiration, and it lifts herself and other people.
Portia, you wrote your first book, and it wasn't while in prison, was it?
No.
And your first book kind of chronicles your story.
Yeah.
And it did very well.
Yeah. People still read it. People still buy it. and it does, because it shares that journey and that journey of transformation. I just got the coolest letter from a guy in prison, basically who's got a life sentence, who's done 42 years. And he read Living Louder in prison, and he sent me this letter, and he said, when you figured out who you belong to, which is God, then you belong to all of us. He's like, I feel known because of you. Even though you don't know us, we feel known. He goes, you don't get that. You don't get validated in prison. Nobody knows who you are. He goes, but because you connect to the experience that I've had, I feel known by you. That makes a difference. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's amazing. You know what I mean? It's amazing. It was so cool.
So you wanted to write another book.
So I'm going to, I shared earlier, we lost my brother last year, and the person that I called on my way was Manny. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. This is what's going on. I need some help here. After that happened, it was difficult. Our family trying to put back the pieces. And after his memorial, one day I woke up and said, I'm writing the book. And I had been spending so much time with Manny speaking. And like you say, he coaches my daughter and my mother and other my nephew. And I had all this content. So I sat down, and this is crazy. I wrote this book in 3 weeks, but
wow.
It was from 3 a.m. till midnight every day. My husband would call. I'm like, I'm busy. What do you need? It was just like I was in the zone. And a big piece of that was Manny, like his story. When I called him, I said, your story is so powerful. I just told him the other day, because some new things are coming up. I'm like, we're writing the prequel. You know that, right? We have to write the prequel, because his life is incredible, this journey, and I know, because I can get it into prisons, how it will connect with other people and how it's connected with kids in detention and everyone else. So it's a story. It has some of my younger years. It starts out with that, and then it ends with my family as well. And in the middle, there's Manny's story and a couple other stories. But the feedback that I've gotten so far is that Manny's story is life-changing for people, which I think is amazing. It has been for me. Mm-hmm. So, I wrote the book, Born to be Brave. Here it is. And it is on Amazon, and it's been really neat. I've been too busy to do much other than just put it on Amazon, but people that read Living Louder are reading it, and it's...
Born to be Brave, Portia Louder, A Compassionate Journey Through Life.
Yeah.
So you guys are now working in tandem and working, doing what?
Do you want me to tell him, or do you want to tell him? So, okay. So Manny started a company called Clean Streets Consulting, and he works with families and youth and others and I send people over that way. We're also now doing some things in mental health, where we'll probably an IOP in the next couple months that will just really cater to people that are leaving prison or that are justice involved. We both still work at other places. I work for a company called Aspire 365, and I also work for Utah Family Therapy. And I do coaching as well, and that's my day job.
So shout out to both of them.
Yeah, they're great. But
so what?
But we do a lot of speaking. Some of that we've had schools with alternative schools that have paid us to come in and kind of put on a assembly, and Manny does, and we've gone to Idaho and done that as well. And what's cool about that is that he's a rapper, so he does these really cool recovery raps, and the kids
Manny boy,
love him.
Manny boy, I've heard it. Yeah,
yeah. So he does that, and then we both speak and share and connect with the kids, and it's amazing. And then we've done some other stuff. We're going to do some stuff later this summer too. And
I love it. I love your guys' friendship. I love what you guys are doing. Now, you guys have mentioned coaching a couple times.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to what coaching really is. I mean, is it mentoring? Is it counseling? Is it therapy? What is considered coaching?
So for me, it's a combination of all of those things. I'm able to meet people where they're at. So I've been able to gain some success in my life from what I'm doing, and I want to be an example to other people, to show them that you can have this. If I can do it, anybody can do it. If Portia can do it, anybody can do it. And this is what's so cool about me and Portia working together, is we're from two different worlds. And so we go into a place and speak, and it doesn't matter what background you come from, what class you come from, we relate with you. We have something for you.
I've had people reach out to me on Instagram and Facebook and say they wanted to know where I went to recovery. They wanted to know which program I was using. And I told them, and they tried to get in. Either they didn't have money or insurance. And they were like, but that's what I want. I want you to have the same thing, but that's not in my control. And that shouldn't be the reason that keeps you from finding recovery. And that's what I love about both your stories, is that's exactly right. Is that if you want it bad enough, you can find it.
Yes.
You can get it.
Yes.
And it's not just people, you know, a lot of people and that's like people that are coming from the streets. The number one is I can't afford it. I don't have insurance. There's no way I can get this.
We can help them.
Right? And I mean, that's their number one stumbling block is that I can't do this.
Right.
And you go, no, but you can.
But you can.
There's USARA. There's
right.
the
Shout
Odyssey
out to
House.
USARA.
Yeah, I mean, there's and USARA is a free program where you go in and they're going to go, hey, we will find something to get you going.
Yeah. I was just there a couple days ago thanking them for tickets to the opera. They sent me and my wife to the opera, and that was a new experience for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you're doing coaching, you're doing speaking, you've got the book out. Now, I often ask people here, and I might have asked you when you guys were on, a while ago. When you first get sober, somebody will say, what do you want your life to be like in 5 years?
Yeah.
And you tell them, they go, now times that by 100. And you're like, you are crazy. Because I can't imagine my life ever being good again.
Right.
And here you two are both sitting across from each other. And how good is life now?
It's amazing. It's beautiful. I'm married to the woman of my dreams, have custody of my daughter now. That was an uphill battle. I don't think I even had custody of her when I came on this show the last time.
No, you didn't.
She lives with me. We lived in an apartment when I first got out of treatment, and then the apartment said my background came back, and so we had to leave, and we started shopping around apartment complexes, and it seemed like the only ones that were going to accept us were the drug-infested, crime-associated apartment complexes. And the last one that we drove into, there was police activity, and we saw everything. And I'm like, is this really what I'm going back to, like after all this work I put in? And I mean, my connection with my higher power is out of this world at this point. And we said a prayer and we asked, God, direct us where you want us to go, because I don't think this is it. And we just let the Spirit take us and direct us, looking for a sign. And lo and behold, in Sandy, there's a sign in the lawn that says for rent, and we apply and tell our story and give our background, and we get this opportunity. And now we live in a 5-bedroom home in Sandy, and we have our kids, and all our kids have their own rooms, and my daughter goes to a wonderful school. And I mean, that's not me. That's something outside of myself that I have to give credit to. And I try and do that every single day.
And how many of us just grow up with all that and don't realize how special and big that really is? For Manny, I've been to his house, and the first time I went there, he's showing me around, and I'm like, nice house. No, it's different for him. He's never had a house, never lived in a house before. Like, the stuff that we take for granted, to me, that's been the beauty of knowing Manny and Misty. And his wife is the exact same. They are both humble, amazing, grateful people that you couldn't find better people. Like, my kid spends the night at their house. Like, I love these people, So.
I feel like we're talking to the recovery odd couple.
Right?
Right? Like they're both so different, but they go well together.
But that's the beautiful thing about recovery.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It connects us.
Like, I've said it before, and for many of us who sat down in their first group, and I'm not like you.
Yeah.
I'm different.
I see that every day. I work in recovery. I see it every day.
I remember the first time, and I was taken back that I go, okay, I looked around and I go, this is where I'm going to tell my story. And I've told my story. And I thought at the end of it, chairs were going to be pushed back. People were going to stand up. They were going to clap and applaud and show me the front door. I'm like, you don't belong here. You know what I mean? Because I thought I was different. And they were like, cool, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Welcome.
And I remember this one guy leaned over to me, and Manny, he was tatted up like you, and he goes, hey, listen, if you want to try that BS anymore, save it.
Good for him.
He goes, because we're all
awesome.
good at telling stories. And so until you want to be real, why don't you shut the F up? And I went, whoa.
Yeah. Good for him. Shout out to that guy.
Yeah. Damien. He was the man.
Shout out to Damien.
And he goes, don't. He goes, we will eat you up. So when you want to be real, we're going to let you be real, but don't try to pull that stuff over on us, because we're not going to let it fly. And I don't know who you think you are, but you're one of us, because you're in rehab.
Right.
So check yourself, buddy.
That's also what I love about 12-step meetings.
Yeah.
They'll give it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Ego is probably one of the main killers of recovery. You know what I mean?
Facts.
It is. It's, yeah. Your ego will kick your butt. And you just got to accept it and own it. And that's what I love about you, Portia, is the ownership. And once you own it,
you're free, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, because people are like, oh, I've had people say this. I would have offed myself. I would have never gone to prison. There's no way I couldn't have done it. And I'm like, do you have any idea the kind of freedom going to prison gave me? Like, who cares what anybody thinks anymore? Who cares? When you're on the 10 o'clock news and you get it,
yeah,
you're like,
with
well,
a mugshot.
Yeah, me too. I got that. Yeah, I got that. And then you're just like, now what? Well, now I just got to get real. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
You know?
The facade is down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of freedom, actually.
It really is.
Right.
What do you think about these two, Dr. Matt? Because I think it's a wonderful union. I think these guys are doing amazing things. And I love the both sides of the coin that they come from and how they're doing great things to help.
Well, I like what Portia was just talking about, which to me isn't it sad that so many things in life stop us from being our authentic selves? Both of the worlds that the two of you grew up in have their own challenges in that way, of not really being you, not really being the authentic self. And it isn't until you become your authentic self that you can really grow. And I think for most of us, it takes moments of insight, and too often those are from a crisis. But the thought that keeps coming back to me all this whole hour has been resistance promotes growth. And we've said that on the show before. It's one of those philosophy of science kind of general principles that applies to everything in life. How is a baby born? How does a plant grow?
How does a muscle grow?
How does a muscle grow? Everything that has growth and development has to go through some sort of resistance. And so resistance promotes growth, and I think these two people have definitely demonstrated that. And it's one of the reasons that their authentic selves are connecting with adults, with teens and children, people that really are going through their own resistance right now, and they can see, if I stick with this, I can grow too. And I think that's a beautiful thing. That's something that only people who have been there and have grown through the resistance or the problems or the challenges in life can really imbue to others.
So we've talked a little bit about what you guys have upcoming in the future.
Yeah.
But what's next for Portia, just Portia as a person?
You know, sometimes I think, like what you talked about earlier, that everything, if I would have written the list of the perfect life when I got sober, I would have written it so wrong. And I would have blessed myself in such a huge way. So I don't know. Like, I don't know, and I don't know that I need to know. I mean, everything has just showed up for me. I didn't know I was going to write that book till the day I wrote it. You know, I knew that my heart was full. I didn't know I was going to write Living Louder. I didn't think I was going to go to prison, and I didn't know I was going to come home and I was going to connect in such a deep way with that experience and speak in prisons. And I didn't know they were going to call me and have me go speak to 1,000 missionaries every 2 weeks. Like, none of those things I knew. I love my husband and my kids. Got grandkids now, so that's beautiful. I think what comes next for me next year is, you know, I have put zero effort into making money. It was like, for me, money did me dirty about like drugs did, because I went to prison for money, right?
It's an addiction for many.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so it's been a difficult thing for me. Like, people will call me and say, hey, we'll pay you. No, you don't have to. I'll just do it. Like, it's been hard for me because I feel like there's power in not having it.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing, right? So I think next year I'm working in ways that will allow me to live an abundant life and continue to have the character that I want to have. And that's important to me.
I tell my kids all the time, I go, God gives you what you want when you need it, not when you want it.
Right.
And a lot of times we always ask for things because I want. Well, I get that you want, but do you need it?
Yeah.
And when you can just figure those two things out, wants and needs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes I've wanted something so bad.
Takes a certain amount of maturity, right?
Yeah, I wanted, like, for example, my TV job back. Mm-hmm. I wanted it, and I would have sold my soul. I'd have done anything I could to get it back, and it wasn't in the cards.
Yeah.
And at that point, I finally accepted that I'll probably never be on TV again. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting on the couch, and the phone rings. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they give it back, and it was like, I wasn't ready, and it wasn't right. But
I think I wasn't surprised, but you were.
I was genuinely surprised. Yeah. I thought that I was never going to be able to do this job again, the one that I love and am really good at and really enjoy doing it. I thought that I ruined it, and I was okay with it because.
Well, you did ruin it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, but you got it back.
Yeah, I got it back,
and it's better.
It's way better.
Actually, I think you're way more fun to watch on TV now.
More authentic and loving it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what's next for Manny Boy?
So for me, I mean, just this year.
Well, I mean, you got an album coming out. You're rapping. What's going on?
I do. I got some new music I'm releasing this year. I got a show at Fit to Recover on Saturday. Shout out to Fit to Recover.
We love
doing
those
amazing
guys.
Things out there. Then I got another show for Mental Health America of Utah. Shout out to Mental Health America of Utah. That's on the 29th. And then of course Recovery Day. They always give me a spot at Recovery Day. 4th of July, I'll be at TOSA, the Other Side Academy. Shout out to the Other Side Academy for everything that they're doing. So this summer is going to be super cool for me, music-wise. Recovery-wise, I mean, I'm still therapeutic.
What are you doing today that helps you in your recovery?
I show up. For other people. So when I was on the show last time, I was a house manager for Papillon. Since then, I became a clinical intern for them, back in school, and learning, and then applying it and also trying to teach other people. I have a caseload of 10 individuals I meet with a week, and I teach 4 groups a week, and then hang out with my family and Portia and the Louder family. And I mean, my recovery is beautiful. I love it. And I remember the last time I was on here, I said, when you asked me this same question, and I was like, I'm going to start a program. And I mean, look at a year and some change later, here we are really talking about starting a program and building an outpatient program. And I started Clean Streets Consulting and Coaching. Shout out to Clean Streets Consulting and Coaching.
I've never had so many shout outs on one podcast.
It is a record.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Normally we're counting swears, but right now we're counting shout outs. Yeah. But let me ask you this.
But that goes to I mean, we got to give credit to everybody that's out here
what I was
doing
going to
this
say
recovery
is,
thing.
how
Man.
cool is Utah? Because we have an abundance of recovery centers, amazing places, amazing facilities to help you get what you want. And they will meet you where they can. Yeah. And this one might not be right for you because of insurance or cash, but this one will take you, or this one. We have options. We have a lot of options here in the state of Utah to be able to get help and get on that road to recovery.
Right, because we recover better together.
I think that's how we end it. So if people want to get your book, where do they find it, Portia?
Well, they can go to PortiaLouder.com or they can go to Amazon. If they Google me, I can't find another Portia Louder in the world.
Really?
Isn't that interesting?
That is.
Not one. So that's, I guess, a benefit. So just Google Portia Louder.
I'm the third Casey Scott down. It's easy. I'm the one with the mugshot next to it.
Yeah.
The other one's an indie rock alt band.
Really?
And another one says Scott Casey, but it's just does soap operas. I'm the third down.
You've kind of done your own
How
soap
many
opera.
Manny Lopez's are there out there?
I'm probably a million.
But only one like you, buddy.
Only one SL Manny boy.
We're lucky to have you. If people want to find out about all the shout outs you do, can they follow you on Instagram? Or?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, SL Manny Boy. Also TikTok's SL Manny Boy. You can follow me and my wife on Facebook, Manny Misty Lopez. And then also if you want to reach out for any coaching or help, consulting, you can also email me at cleanstreetsutah@gmail.com.
I love it. Hey, thank you guys for stopping by and keeping us updated on all the wonderful work you guys are doing.
I'd like to see you read the book, too.
I'm going to read it. I'm really going to read it. Thanks for stopping by and listening to another episode of Project Recovery. We want to thank our sponsor, Reprieve Recovery. Check them out at reprieverc.com for more information. And, of course, congratulations again on the engagement, Dr. Matt.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And in case you forgot, Project Recovery is what?
It's a KSL podcast.
What need you get down on?
Right.
That's a good one.
Yeah.